What's going on, Neon Nation? Welcome back to the Neon Arcade for some more Cyberpunk 2077 and Cyberpunk lore. In light of recent news of Cyberpunk 2077 having the Badlands, the Nomad life path option, and new details on Nomad factions, the Aldecaldos and Raf and Shiv, I figured it would be the prime time to dive into some of the Nomad nations, their lore, and how they operate. Since there is so much Nomad lore, this is likely going to be a multiple part series. As always, this is based on 2020 lore, and the information in this video is distilled down from the 2020 sourcebook called Neo Tribes. If you'd like to purchase Neo Tribes in its entirety, check out the Artal Saurian store, and I'll have a link in the pinned comment. After the cataclysmic event of the collapse, Nomads became prevalent with 20 million people living the highly mobile lifestyle. In 2020, that number has settled down to around 7 million nomads who have developed a vibrant culture whilst becoming a domineering force in the cyberpunk age. Neo-tribes, as they're referred to, are the people who adapted to the crisis of the cyberpunk world, and although portrayed by media as murderers, thieves, and raiders, are simply highly mobile groups that are resilient, efficient, and adapt to the open roads of this dystopia. The Nomads are a group who are constantly on the move and have always been on the move. Whether it's from their humble beginnings moving by horseback or foot to the new era of Nomads who revolve around a much more motorized method of locomotion, Nomads move to wherever there is opportunity, food, and work as a collective pack. In the age of 2020, this makes Nomads suspect in the eyes of the corporations and the common man who have a repetitive feedback loop peddling the American dream that according to them can only be found once settled in the metropolises. There are various types of nomadic packs as well, ranging from military order styled packs to casual anarchists. Nomads can be trustworthy or they can be backstabbing and very gang oriented, like the Raf and Shiv who are violent and suffer from infighting. The Nomads play a vital part in the infrastructure of America in the 2020s. They're integral in construction jobs and development of the nation, which cements their pivotal position in the world of cyberpunk amongst the other factions, people, and corporations. With America being the skeleton of what it once was, there are a multitude of reconstruction efforts needed in various areas, which supports the Nomads' highly mobile lifestyles. Nomads who are deterred by this kind of work, due to them feeling like they're shilling out to corporations or construction companies, end up heavily involved in the salvage trade. These Nomads go into ghost towns and strip it down like a thief strips down a car in the middle of the night for all it's worth. These Nomads take everything from electronics to metals to valuables to mass amounts of rubble, all that they can trade or sell on the market. Nomads who are well armed are also involved in cargo transport and new age shipping, which is looking to be a major aspect of Cyberpunk Red as well as 2077 throughout the Badlands. They run cargo across America in a safe way and can use their knowledge of the road to traverse in the best way possible. Think of them like the Amazon of the Cyberpunk future. Fast, efficient, and if you get Nomad Prime, they'll likely get your cargo and supplies to you in 2 days. By the way, that was a joke, this is kind of your cue to laugh. These nomadic cargo services also deliver information where hard copies are needed and out of the eyes of skilled netrunners looking to obtain it, and of course in illegal goods as smugglers. The underground and black market economies of the cyberpunk landscape largely exist through the networks made possible by Nomads through their distribution. Nomads can also be more focused on mercenary operations or as new age farmers focused on agriculture, forming agri-packs that follow the seasons throughout the US to harvest and sell crops. Nomads also value and respect family and have something called the Nomad Code. This is how Nomads should behave and their prioritization of honor in the way they operate. The Nomad Code goes as follows: protect and respect your clan and above all your family. Your word is your bond. Share with your clan folk. Respect the privacy and property of your clan. Never cause trouble for your clan. Take only a fair wage for a day's work. In the spirit of this code of honor, Nomad groups have really banded together despite them being unique in their own rights. This has led to the creation of 7 distinct Nomad nations, which will be discussed in part 2 of our Nomad lore video series. Before we get into the specific nations, we first have to look at the nomadic cultures within these nations and their beliefs, customs, as well as their strengths and weaknesses. First up, we have the Agri-Packs. This is a culture which are descendants of hardworking migrant laborers of the past who toiled and suffered via poor living conditions and slave wages and were very much discriminated against. As the land was stripped of resources via environmental conditions, the Agri-Packs who were already fairly mobile had to change the way that they lived. They moved into working for the Agri-Corps and living in their makeshift camps, featuring their caravans, RVs, and tents. These are some of the most dominant types of nomads and are led by a council of elders who run their groups semi-loosely. They value education and they engage in communal dining as a group to increase the feeling of brother and sisterhood amongst their camps. Next we have the Native Americans or Indians. In the cyberpunk world, they have a long dark history of persecution and have been mistreated by the federal government time and time again. In the reservations in the northern US, they were mainly on farms and light industry, weathering a tumultuous quality of life. The Dust Bowls heavily affected the Native Americans in the south and southwest, but the biggest impact was to the warrior tribes of the plains of the Great Basin. After the reservations could no longer support them, they paved the way for their culture by truly adapting to the nomadic lifestyle. They also rediscovered traditional clothing with modernized touches to protect them from the elements and to pay homage to their ancestry. They also turned to entertainment, as their festivals and traditional dances were highly sought after by entertainment corps as extras in films and set pieces. These tribes are run in a traditional fashion, but people are not bound to follow the chief of the tribe's advice. Discipline is key, and most people know that nothing of substance comes from laziness. Next, we have the Gypsies of the Romany, who have very deep roots in America, as well as facing some of the same degree of backlash as almost all of the other nomadic cultures. Gypsies generally make their living as artists and thieves, although some more prolific gypsies work as fixers and middlemen. Post-collapse, the Gypsies had easy access to information, and with government and police forces being fragmented, this allowed them to thrive. Although less overarching police force was readily available, the Gypsies still struggled at times when it came to stealing from the wrong people. Their methods were largely more recognizable post-collapse, and conning street punks was risky as they could come back with fellow gangers for revenge. The Gypsies are highly adaptable and ended up dabbling in everything from the net to buying broken gear and repairing them, and even information brokering. Their social structure is based on a compania or company. Groups are generally made up of several families, led by a patriarch or matriarch of the largest family. Although perceived similarly to the Gypsies, the Carnies are circus people who make their livings at carnivals or circuses, which were a mainstay of regular American living. These subcultures were hit hard by some of the technological evolutions in the world, as new electronics could create experiences vastly superior to circus acts, and by the early 90s, old carnivals had mostly died off. Large circuses were still viable, but they were family owned and operated, and it started to revolve more around this than business. In response to the changing times and the tastes of the cyberpunk world, circuses traveled with exotic animals, weird cyber freaks, sex shows, and chemically induced entertainment. With the collapse, the circuses were needed again as electronic communications were largely severed and technology took a step back. Finally, we have the bikers, who carry the most negative connotation when it comes to the nomad subcultures. Before the collapse, the biker nomads were on the fringe of society and were mainly made up of blue-collar workers who had become frustrated in their lives. They chose to rebel as societal outsiders, though they remained loyal to their brotherhood and families. There were several large biker organizations in North America before the collapse, including the Pagans, the Bandits, and the Outlaws. There were also some smaller ones like the Iron Cross, the Gypsy Jokers, and the Plague Bringers. They're often involved in smuggling and drug distribution, and their groups started to grow over time as they became more well-known. Biker nomads are easily recognizable by their heavily customized motorcycles and their gang-like jackets and street punk style. The presidents run the biker gangs, and usually they're the most street smart of the bunch. Under him, there is an enforcer squad and regular members. Biker nomads are a volatile group and are subject to making decisions on a whim, so other nomad groups are usually on high alert when biker nomads are passing through the area. Luckily for everyone else, they also spend a lot of their time just beating the pulp out of each other. Thanks for watching, guys, and for everything and anything cyberpunk, join Neon Nation by subscribing to the Neon Arcade.